I found a video. This is from 2001. It spoke of how around 1984 the problem with prescription drugs had already emerged. So they were saying it had been 40 years already that this had been known about. Well, I can go back to 1976. Yes, this dealt with the so-called barbiturate over the benzo, but it looks like it had the same results with tardive dyskinesia. I'm giving the scoop to the year 1976 and Lou Grant. Mary couldn't fall asleep. She had a high-pressure job in Minneapolis. I covered this a little bit before in the video on Jim Sullivan, to be found on the featured presentations playlist, but I digress. What were we talking about? Anywho, we can see, well, I can't see right now, but I'm going to mix and match, mop and chop, whatever I say. Chop and mop, that's it. I think I picked that up from Geraldo Rivera. But for now, we're just in the audio portion. Mary Tyler Moore was so cute. She was the Lana Del Rey of her time. The pure apple pie woman. Lou Grant turned out to be a good, solid man. Hopefully not solid in the Freemason sense. Same goes with regular guy. That might also be a frickin' Freemason phrase. How many digressions is one allowed? Thanks goes out to the few people who have been following my shtick. It's a small number, but I'm appreciative of those who know that this is cult stuff. In 50 to 100 years, this will be seen as cult material that you were clever enough to be at the forefront and experience in real time. Anyone real young out there, you could say, yeah, I was one of those handful of people that could just tell it was some sort of cyber gold. So anyway, that about wraps it up. Lou Grant did what he had to do to get Mary out of that addiction to, I don't know, what's that, Valium? What the heck was going on back then? It was the Xanax of the day. And Lou Grant basically knew what to do. He knew she had to be snapped out of it. And the weirdest part of all was the obvious pointing out of drug-induced facial movements. They did this quite a bit within the show, maybe at least a few times. So that'll about wrap it up. I'm just about up to the 5-minute mark. I'm not going to be editing too much anymore for specific sentences. I figured out how to speak monotone so that I could take whatever amount of time I wanted to pound out a sentence, because all I'd have to do is delete the spaces between the words. I imagine that's what's going on in Hollywood, and that everything is rigged. The pandemic or whatever, Assange, Snowden, all that just brought down the medium. The fourth wall collapsed. We can see that these people are photoshopping their butts and whatnot, and that they aren't bags of chips, and that we the people are the metaphorical chips, the bag of chips. But don't eat chips, they're not healthy. Unless they're the healthy type, but sometimes they fake as the healthy type.
I figure our documentary could show the terrible things that could happen to you, to one who became dependent on them.
What terrible things?
Well, for one thing, you could end up looking like this.
I presume that our documentary would also show the many cases where one was not addicted to sleeping pills.
Well, that would depend on how often one had taken them, Mary.
Suppose one had taken them every night for 2 weeks with no sign of addiction.
Mary, taking them every night for 2 weeks is addiction. How'd you like to put cold cream on this every night?